Okay, let's hear what you got. No, don't like that. That's better. I like that. That's the one.
Welcome to episode 3 of Chat. Today we are talking about social media, part 1. I am Corbin.
I'm Sarah.
And we are talking about social media today. 2-part episode, pretty big.
We've never done this before.
I know.
Episode 3 already.
Yeah.
3 and 4 coming.
3 and 4. So for those kind of wondering why we're splitting it into 2 parts, because we don't want to have one whole saga of us talking about social media.
Mega episode.
Yeah, and also just to keep us on track, part 1 here, episode 3, we'll be talking about the positives, the pros of social media, what we like about it, and it will keep us on track in that regard. And then part 2, which will be episode 4, will be the other side of the coin, where it would be the negatives and what we don't like about the social media.
And how we got to here was in our previous episode, in episode 2,
Yes.
we were talking about pet peeves, and that
sprinkled.
It was kind of, we were on the cusp of
Heading
sidebarring into this topic. So I'm glad we kind of pulled back on track and made this its own episode. And you're the one that actually felt that this would make a good 2-part episode or topic rather.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be one of the more receptive episodes because social media is free. Anyone can get it. Anyone can have it.
Yeah.
And most people have it. Mm-hmm. So speaking of that, I don't think social media really needs an introduction, but we're speaking about a certain, mostly a certain group of apps/websites, things like Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Platforms.
Those are the main platforms we're speaking of today. And I thought it'd be interesting to go through how many downloads, at least on the Android Play Store, I guess maybe just in general, I don't know, how many downloads these apps have. And keep in mind, these are also websites, so people could be accessing it through that. These are just the downloads on the App Store.
Right.
Twitter has 500 million, and that's the lowest number out of the 4.
Oh, the ones that
Yeah. Still a lot. 500 plus million, so maybe it's not 600 million, but and then we have Snapchat at 1 billion.
Oh, wow.
And then we also have Instagram tied at 1 billion. And then number 1 is Facebook with 5 billion.
That's just crazy numbers,
Yeah, and that's just downloads.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't visits on the website.
Yeah.
Usually people might have both the website and the app, but it's insane that many people have Facebook.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting when you look at those numbers, because again, with this being kind of a generational podcast, each social media platform is utilized differently.
Yeah.
I know that Facebook is, that number is going to be that big because it's kind of a universally used, not so much with young people, but like in the case of both you and your brother, you've had Facebook accounts. Whether or not they're active all the time or not is another story, but you have had them. But Twitter is a different way of communicating. Snapchat, different way of communicating again. I'm sorry, I forget what
Instagram.
Instagram, again, another way of communicating. So it's very interesting to look at those numbers and see what they mean as far as the age demographics, perhaps even gender-based as far as, who is utilizing them more than others based on age and that type of thing.
And looking at the numbers, looking for the numbers before recording here, I was looking at Snapchat and how it has 1 billion downloads. Mm-hmm. But there's only 188 million active daily users.
So
that shows you.
I'm one of those inactive users.
Yeah.
I have Snapchat, but I don't use it very often.
And since this episode is talking about the positives of social media, a lot of people I know that are a little older than me, maybe like 20s to 30s, they like Snapchat a lot because they find that it's bringing back the face-to-face aspect that a lot of people have been criticizing social media for, saying that you lose that. And I can kind of see that. I kind of respect that opinion, that it's bringing back the face-to-face. A lot of apps now of social media have the video chat option as well. So I think that's kind of been that argument for preferring Snapchat's kind of
Not as strong.
not as strong anymore. But it definitely, that's one thing I have to agree with as well. That's a positive, is that each social media has its strengths and its differences in a good way.
Yeah.
And they all serve their purpose,
Yeah.
which I like.
I look at the positives of social media being bringing people together.
Yeah.
Regardless of what platform we're talking about. I know people that have been able to keep in touch with family, like generationally family, in different countries, different parts of the world because of social media. So yes, we could always telephone. That was always an option, but
Letters and stuff.
it's not the same type of interaction as being able to see a photo of your grandchild, at the beach, or the same concept as hearing a loved one, doing something and being able to hear their voice and seeing them move.
Yeah.
With social media, that's definitely an advantage and something I think is positive. I also know of people who have had romantic connections because of social media. We know someone who reconnected with their high school sweetheart and were able to get married and are very happy now thanks to Facebook. Because they connected years ago and, both going to the same school and, how you search up your friends. The next thing you know,
There you go.
they're dating, they're married, and it's great.
There is that special connection through social media, and that's one of the biggest positives for it. Whenever I ask people about social media, and they always go to that one, which is the communication part of things, which is undeniable, I find. But I think things like Twitter, though, would be interesting because that's not used compared to Facebook, which I think is the best for what you're describing, especially when it comes to family and friends.
Yeah.
I feel Facebook, when capturing special moments in your life, because they celebrate like your birthday, create special moments on your timeline.
Yeah.
Your birthday, getting married, like it knows and it documents it, right?
Or you can update that part of your life.
yeah.
You can create a status update that you're married or you're expecting or what.
And
have
things
you.
like Instagram don't really do that, but it's still the same thing. But it's interesting to look at Twitter because it isn't like that.
No.
Twitter's, I find, is almost like people's quick thoughts, practically, and celebrities' quick thoughts. And that's kind of why I like it, because it's interesting getting that more personal look, which I guess Instagram as well has become big with celebrities. But things like Snapchat, you don't have, unless you follow them, but they're not going to communicate back to you and all that.
It's different communication patterns.
I find Facebook doesn't have as many celebrities either, compared to Instagram and Twitter. But I kind of like just seeing that different side of celebrities, or getting the behind the scenes, or they're even speaking to their fans directly through Twitter.
And that's a good point. I think that Twitter is a different weight of communication. I think Facebook is more personal. It can be used as more brand awareness for companies or organizations, that type of thing. Whereas I find Twitter, for me, and I don't follow as many celebrities as you do, for me, Twitter is my quick snap of news information.
Yeah.
Like if I want to know about something, or if there's been something breaking news in the world, it's going to be on Twitter. And because of the hashtag concept, if you're seeing something that's particularly interesting, then you can actually just jump onto that hashtag and get caught up within moments as to everything that's been happening.
Yeah.
Which I love that, because if you don't have a lot of time, or you don't want to spend a lot of energy hunting for that information, you can actually just jump in and grab your information, which, without getting to the negatives, can also be the problem if you're not spending a lot of time researching where your information is coming from. But we'll get into that next time.
I agree with that. Especially we use it when it comes to things like the Oscars going on. We like to look at Twitter just to see what people are thinking if something crazy happens, or I find Twitter is probably the funniest out of them all, because it's just, you get people just, as I said, it's the quick thoughts. It's the first thought sometimes people put on Twitter.
And you see some funny people, like the amazing things that they'll post. Like the first time that and I can't remember what awards show it was that something happened. And so, we're watching it live on TV. And I just said, like, oh my God, I've got to see what Twitter's doing. And your dad looked at me like I sprouted a second head, said, like, why are you worrying about that? And I said, because this is going to be as funny online as it is, the reaction is going to be as funny online as it is seeing it live. So once I started doing that, and he realized, like, I would read some of the responses back, or, it was something that happened, something in the audience, some audience response or something that the camera caught or something like that. And of course, then there's memes and there's, replays, and it's just, the joke keeps going on.
Twitter really helped catapult GIFs and GIFs into social media, which I feel sometimes you don't even need words. You just you just see the GIF or GIF, and that makes the whole tweet. Yeah.
Well, and now your dad will say to me, "You better go see what happened. How did they respond to that on Twitter?" Because it becomes almost an added value of what you're watching on TV or streaming, to have that sort of, everybody's watching. It's a shared experience. That's what it is. It's where we're all connected going, oh my God, did you just see that? And being able to connect that way. Yeah. I think that's a positive too.
Yeah. And I primarily use Twitter just to keep updated with music and movies most of the time.
Pop culture. Yeah.
And it does its job. And it's the one constant social media that I use. What's your favorite social media out of the four there of Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram?
Favorite? I would actually, the one we haven't talked about, I think, is Instagram. I think that's my favorite, because for some of the reasons that we spoke in last episode about the frustrations that I have with how some people use Facebook in particular. Yeah. Instagram has some sketchy stuff, which again we can talk about next episode, as far as people living their, figure quotes, best life, editing out 16 other photos that are far more realistic than the one they're posting. Yeah. But I really enjoy Instagram because my background is photography, so I really appreciate a really good photo. And some of the people that I follow are also photographers or artistic in their endeavors. So I find that interesting to kind of see how other people look at things. But I would say second to that would be Facebook, just because it's an easy communicating tool. But if I had to get rid of all of my platforms, the one I'd probably miss the most would be Instagram. Yeah. Yeah.
And at least it's interesting how they evolve, like how Facebook has Messenger now. And people sometimes just use Messenger as their daily, day-to-day messaging.
As opposed to texting.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary because, again, in the next episode,
with all the
the negative stuff,
with all the stuff that's going on with politics and stuff like that, it is spooky. But it's just interesting how it can evolve into something like that, and how people will cling to it. It's interesting, and I feel that social media definitely has its upsides. One thing, because I'm off social media right now, other than Twitter.
So can you say in a positive way why you're off social media, or what's been positive about being off social
media?
Because
I find that I'm living social media. I'm living
more without social media?
Well, yeah, like that's okay. Well, but that's what I'm saying. I'm living my social media, as in, whenever I want to talk to someone, I don't just immediately go to Instagram or something like that, and I'll just go talk to them in person. You're
looking to have a more immediate or authentic connection with someone, as opposed to communicating through a platform.
Yeah, that's not the reason why I got rid of it, though. You're just asking me what my most positive...
Yes, and that's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, and that's the one positive thing I can say about it, is that without it, is that...
You're interacting more.
Yeah. Cool. And it's nice. But what I was going to say is that even though I don't use social media other than Twitter right now, and a little bit Facebook, I find that your experience will be as good as the people you follow.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
If you're following trash.
And a
It's-
little bit,
yeah.
and it's half and half with the stuff you post as well, which we'll get into as well. But like, as you said, living your best life, that can be very straining, putting on that front.
all the time, for
Yeah.
sure. No, and like I say, I think I feel that any kind of communication is good communication. I have this conversation with my mom a lot of times because she's not on social media, and she has heard a lot of negativity in the news, in the media, about various things that have happened regarding social media, whether it's a hack or privacy policy change that's impacted people. And I keep it's like anything in life. There's going to be the positive, there's going to be the negative. And I think if, use your powers for good and not evil. Yeah. If you're going to put out messaging or positivity, then, social media is a great place to do it, to connect with people and connect with like-minded people.
Yeah.
And that can be very empowering too, to find your tribe. And I think a lot of people can do that in a positive way, find like-minded individuals and have positive outcomes. And, I know there's a lot of things like, clubs and organizations that, couldn't afford to do the promotion and marketing for their organizations that they're able to do on a free platform such as Facebook or Twitter. So again, that's a huge plus, because it means that these organizations are able to do good work or better work or more work because they're reaching a broader audience, because that's where everybody is on social media. To ask someone, it's very rare these days to find someone who does not have some kind of social media profile or exposure.
Yeah.
I think you'd struggle to find
You could
someone.
even argue if email social media.
It could be socialized,
It could arguably be social media, but I would agree with you. I would say you couldn't find anyone in, actually, it'd be very hard to find.
Yeah. I know one person. So.
It would take extreme.
When I say one I know more than one person, but as far as like my generation, like my age bracket, that could be on social media, but has just opted not to be on social media. Yeah. So,
and that takes a lot as well, because it's almost like that's the out crowd. Not the out crowd, but you're the black sheep among your friends and family if you don't have it, because you're kind of cut off.
Well, it depends. Like maybe for this person, they've got another, like a partner or another family member that's keeping them in the loop. But it's amazing how, for some people, social media has replaced other forms of communication. Like they're not telephoning, or that is their main way of communicating is through those various platforms.
Yeah, and that's crazy, especially with everything that's been happening with, as you said, Facebook and all that scandal. You don't want to put, I wouldn't want to put too much out there personally, because you never know what someone out there might be doing with it.
So it'd be interesting to hear back from our listeners. If you have had a remarkable social media experience, something positive that you would like to share. We don't want too many details. We don't want to risk anybody's safety or security or create an unsafe environment as far as what they're sharing online. But if you want to let us know, we are excited to announce that we are going to have a Facebook page. So you want to look up Chats, CHATS. And you'll be able to find us, and there'll be conversations, and maybe you can give us feedback that way. You're also welcome to email us, and we are looking forward to hearing from anyone regarding this topic. And soon, we'll talk about the negatives of social media.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. And if you follow our Facebook and all that, you'll probably get very constant updates about, when we're uploading and where we're uploading and all that.
Yeah, and maybe it's a great opportunity for you to make suggestions for upcoming topics. I just realized I didn't give our email, so can I throw that in there quick before you sign off? If you want to email us, you're welcome to do so at chatspodcast@gmail.com. That's chatspodcast, CHATSPODCAST @gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Of course. Thank you guys for listening. This is Corbin.
And Sarah.
And make sure to join us for our next chats.